Okay, so Hassan, when did you get involved in the project? Because you weren't part of the original shorts, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's what I'm saying when I jumped in and I said that's what I saw at first, because what happened was it's still COVID. We can't go in rooms and audition anymore. And I'm the quintessential actor. I need to go to audition. Like, I like auditioning.
Right.
Like, and then, but not to the fact that when I don't book something and it comes out, I don't watch it because I'm not in it. But I like to sharpen my blade. So I wanted an audition for real for this because I knew what it was. I knew exactly what the shit was. I seen it. I know that guy, that character, Flatbush being the backdrop. I said, this'll work. So, but then I said, I didn't want to do a tape though. I don't want to waste my time on a tape. I don't know how arbitrary, like I don't know how deep Dan, Kevin, how deep into a soul of the character they're trying to search for that I don't think I'd be able to convey on a tape. I do great tapes, but I did not want to waste my energy on it. So I told
Hassan was too good. He's like, get the fuck out of here with that tape. He's like, I'm not taping for that shit. Look how fucking long I've been good. I've been good, too long. Tom Brady's not going to training camp.
Practice, all that AI shit. Yeah, in a nutshell, with Dan saying. So I grew a brain and came up with an idea to do a Zoom. Let me just talk to them. Let them know that I understand what the vision is, right? So it was Dan, Kevin, I think, I didn't even know Nastarin was on there.
Oh, sure.
Right? It was a couple of people I didn't know that were on the Zoom until I started making, I guess, some key points and valid points. And then I just was hearing some ad-libs coming in like, yeah, right? Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm people are listening. They know that I get it. Yeah. And basically the Zoom went well and I was in there like swimwear. And I'm glad they were, willing to take the Zoom call because I said I could get them to know who Drew is better through me. I mean, and they're the creators, but I said, I know I could do it, and then they got it.
We just thought we were like, man, I'll just do that. It would be great to Zoom with Hassan.
If nothing else, right?
Hassan Johnson wants to talk to us?
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I was like, let me kick it with y'all. Let's go, let's have a little cyber brunch or something real quick. And we chopped it up and it went well. And then it's like, how even you said, Vlad, it's a big deal to get it to like Showtime, but the way the momentum of everything went wasn't like this big deal. It was like, I don't know what it was like for them when they did. Well, he said what it was like when they did, they borrowed cameras. They went and they just went with the blood, sweat, and tears. But then when we came together, the culmination was so natural. You wouldn't have think or thought about all the red tape it take to get to that level. It was like that shit just hit and we did it.
Yeah, I mean, and from the start, like from Hassan first coming in, because it's, Hassan was one of the, Hassan and Kristen, who plays Zaina, were like the two most important characters that were not who was in the initial web series.
Exactly.
So we're writing the first season without knowing the voice. We knew Kareem's voice. We knew like what he's going to say and how he's going to perform it. And so it was really cool that first table read when we see like, oh, they're coming to life. And this is Drew, and he's like embodying it.
And don't get it twisted, because the original Drew now is a beast and did his thing. Now I'm like, I gotta outdo this shit because his presence is felt on camera. Except for the part where Kev's like, he used to beat the shit out of him in scenes because he just can't learn to pretend. So he was like, he wouldn't have made it anyway.
The original Drew, his name is Drew Dowdy. He's in the first and ninth episodes of the first season as one of Hassan's friends.
Yes,
it's Napoleon who's playing the Goose Game,
right?
And Drew who's playing John, another character.
That's right. Yeah,
and then Hassan playing Drew, and so he was the original Drew in the web series,
right?
And then he was in the writers' room also this season. So, and he's a great actor, great writer.
Yes, he is. So I'm like, funny. I gotta outdo this to a degree,
right?
But I get the assignment. I got the assignment, and it did. It just worked out. And then with Zaina, with Kristen playing Zaina, I think our chemistry was like, we've done projects before. It just feels like we've been here together before, and I was just happy for that.
Well, Hassan, so you played Drew Hill.
Yeah.
who's
It sounds
Drew
funny when
Hill.
you say it
I,
out
I
loud.
just realized that. I just
Yeah,
realized
see,
the
when you
playoff
said
though.
it,
Drew Hill.
I knew it,
Okay.
but then when you just said it, the way it sounds is like, I think everyone else is just catch on.
It's funny because I don't think it's ever been said aloud, but people say like Mr. Hill, and then people
Right,
slowly
right.
piece it
That's
together.
what it is.
You're like, wait, is his name Drew Hill?
Right,
Yeah.
they don't ever just say his name in full
Right.
cadence. It's like Mr. Hill or Drew.
Yeah.
Like, Drew Hill? All right.
Drew Hill, the R&B group with starring Cisco. Right. There
Yes.
we go. Okay, and you essentially play, I mean, you terrorize everyone on the show. You play the main villain, essentially,
much.
which, I mean, later on, you start to kind of gel with other characters, but that first season, like, everyone's just terrified of you.
Yeah, because it's like there's a right way, wrong way, and Drew's way. And then there's a median in there that Drew comes up with because it's like it's gonna be more right and less wrong, and and that'll suffice. He could live with that outcome as long as the right's greater than the wrong, in Drew's eyes at least. Because I mean we all know right from wrong, right? Drew's taking care of his family.
Yes.
He loves his niece to death.
Yeah.
He really values her education.
Right.
You know, all the things that they, implemented in the first season, and he's steadfast to that. So there's that median that Drew fought that he's gonna find and make everything he does and says justifiable. So to him, he's not terrorizing, it's just protocol.
Right.
It's like if I don't do this, I'm not going to get to my destination. Right. I'm not going to be able to, it's not conducive to what I'm trying to accomplish. So
yeah, I don't think, I think in that first like scene of the first episode, you can watch and think like, oh, Drew is the villain. But I don't think of Drew as the villain at all. I think one fun thing with the show is you can look at any of the characters and be incredibly annoyed at them.
Right.
Because they all,
at any given time.
they all act, selfishly at times. They all are short-sighted at times, but they all, from the writing perspective, you have to like get why they're making the choices they're making. And I understand why Drew is making all the choices he's making,
Right.
But I think he's coming at it from his perspective, which is what he needs to do to protect his own family and his own livelihood.
Right.
And so that's one thing I do really like about the show is that to any character, to my character, especially that first season, I'm like, oh, this guy, like, we got to get away from him. We got to get whatever.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
And then over the course of the second season, my character evolves to where Kevin's character evolves pretty quick in the first season, which is like, I have empathy for this person.
Yeah.
And for my character, it's like, oh, I got to grow the fuck up.
Yeah, because
and
if he
look what
just
this
did
guy's doing.
this other way or that way, he wouldn't be in that. It's like, we
Right.
got these builders, everyone has an assignment, and then one person, whether it be Dan, Kevin, Drew, or whoever, they miss a nail or a screw.
Right.
And then you got to take everything apart
Right.
and rebuild the shit.
Yeah,
right.
it's a toothpick house,
It's a
and they keep
toothpick house.
removing the wrong
Exactly.
Jenga piece, and everything's collapsing. But I think that's cool because that's anybody we know in life, anybody we love. They have major flaws.
Yeah.
They mess up, and you can choose to have empathy for it or not.
Or not, yeah.
But it just feels very human, and that's what Hassan brings so naturally to that character. Is he's like just so likable that it's like that he can just say a line, just like a basic line, like, but you're their best dancer. Or he can say like, I'm going to smack the shit out of you. They're both funny. I believe them both. I know they're both fully on the table.
Right.
And also he's so like precise with how you do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I hope it's not weird. I'm complimenting you.
No,
it's like,
I'm listening because these are the things that I started to have a revelation of during the second season. I'm like, oh, I'm starting to enjoy Drew. Like, it was just a thing at first, and then it's like now I'm starting to see the layers and then everything else. Like, you're breaking it down.
but it's so precise. It's like, you remember Greg Maddox, the pitcher?
Yeah.
That's
a good one.
That's Hassan. Like, with everything he said, it's like he'll put it exactly, the line will land in the exact millimeter it's supposed to land on,
Yeah.
Kareem's Randy Johnson up there. He's
Definitely
throwing
Randy.
130
Oh, is he?
miles per hour.
He never
But
lets up. Right.
Hassan will just stay totally within himself and still show an insane amount of range, and it's very, very cool to watch.
Nah, good looking out, Dan. Appreciate that.
Well, Dan, you play Dan Joseph,
Yeah,
a public school teacher who is addicted to Xanax.
sure, yes.
In your personal life, did you ever, play around with pills or anything else like that? Did that come from a real thing, or that was just for the show?
No, I did. If you ever tried Xanax, it's very good.
I mean, not for nothing.
There's a reason. There's a reason people like it.
Right.
You try any kind of drug people get addicted to, and you're like, oh, I see what people like.
People like about it, right?
I wasn't as bad as my guy on the show. I think I hope that guy is a lot worse than me in every way, but also in that way. But it is a thing where it's like, yes, that was a thing that I had an issue with. I had to stop taking. But it's also a thing that, like we're talking about, like, vices and corner cutting and stuff that you don't even realize is a problem, because a thing like that can be all prescribed. And you're just taking this prescribed dose and everyone's doing it. And so in your head, you're okay. Well, somebody wrote this for me, so it's fine. I'm not like buying it from under a bridge so you can write it off as it's all okay.
Like self-medicating.
Well, right. And then it just slowly kind of evolves. And it's similar and it felt cool to like arc that out and pull at that string and then arc it out to being like, and that's similar to what Hassan's character is going through, where it just starts as a thing you're not really questioning and you can write off, but then it just kind of spirals without even, you're like, whoa, how did we even get here? Right.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, that did come from a real place. And the public school teacher thing, I studied education in school. I thought maybe I would teach if I didn't have the courage to do comedy or to try that route, even though that's what I always wanted to do. So that's who I feel like I would have been otherwise, just a shitty teacher who's well-meaning but fails constantly and takes a lot of pills.
There you go.
Well, the show premiered on May 23rd, 2021 on Showtime. And then by August of that same year, it was actually renewed for a second season.
Right.
So when it first came out, was it a hit, or was it one of those things that sort of was a slow growth kind of thing?
I think it's still a slow build,
right.
I think
it's gradual.
It's gradual, yeah. Because, I mean, Hassan's the biggest name on the show, Like, Hassan's had, been working for years and has shows and films that everybody's seen. And the rest of us, it's, if not our first thing, one of our first things. So I knew it was going to be a thing that was slow, and I just hoped people would like give it a chance and watch it.
Yeah.
Because there are so many shows, and you leave your house now and everyone just starts shouting show recommendations at you. And you know what I mean? And they're like, you haven't seen are you even alive? Absolutely. You haven't seen Industry yet? You constantly get guilted. So it's tough for it to even for any show to make an imprint. So anytime people were finding it and discovering it and it's sort of growing organically, like you said, it's you found it just kind of randomly and, we're drawn into it. I mean, that's cool. And so, yeah, it was definitely a slow build, but we were also lucky that people wrote it up a lot and it got all good reviews and stuff. And so that helps also,
Because I think for me, when I watch it all come together, right, and start seeing it, gradually grow and then, and build into its own thing, was okay, well, it makes sense now. If Hassan is the most recognizable face, we know his capabilities, and it's got to be good. And I think that's what more people that did watch it, gave it a chance, like Dan said, got out of it, was well, if he was in it, it's had to be good. Right. And look who's around him. This shit is funny. In a weird way, or off-kilter, kind of way, like this Flatbush setting with these characters that are not from essentially the neighborhood or essentially natives of the neighborhood that are making this hit home like it is for them. And I think that's why I was glad to be a part. That's why I wanted to make that Zoom. I was they just need to know I get it.
Yeah, and I think that was also one of the most helpful things, and a thing that would take time for people to watch it and see what we're trying to do. Because I think if people see it on paper, it's a tough show to describe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if you just read it on paper, you're like, oh, two friends trying to make it. We've seen some shit like that before
exactly.
a million times. Right. But the goal of the show is always let's make a show that is not the Dan and Kevin show, that is a community and flesh out those other characters, which takes time to care about the other characters. And there's a reason like comedies tend to get better second season because you figured out the characters more. You like know who's fun to play off and you're just more invested in them.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Hassan's character, Kristen's character, Zaina, Kareem, like you get more invested in all of them. And so I think that also helps. And to see that it's not just, you know, us two idiots at the center, but it's like a world, you know? And so that's been fun to
And I mean,
build, you know?
and for like a musical analogy, it's like when you hear about a rapper's volume 2, and you're like, well, I didn't hear volume 1. right? You got to go back and hear, volume 1 is sick. And then you play volume 1 on repeat forever. Then you catch up to 2. So I think that's what's happening with Flatbush, and that's a better deal than coming in hot, like a one-hit wonder thing. Then have these so big expectations for season 2.
Right.
And then like just say the audience just don't get it or just take to it like they did 1 because 1 was so popular. It was such the talk of the town and da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
So I don't think that pressure was on us naturally to have to do all of that. It was just like naturally you want to get better. You got to the playoffs first round. You want to get to the second round.
Right.
You get to the second round. You want to get to the semi. You know what I'm saying? And the chip.
Yeah.
So that's what we were. That's what we're doing. That's how we doing it.
For sure. And then also the fact that people like in Brooklyn and in Flatbush and really all over Brooklyn have been so positive about the show is also
on location filming, all of that is super love. It's forget about
which is like really cool because you don't want to be, you know, you don't want to be like in the way. You know what I mean? You don't want it to be like when the president comes to town and everyone's like, oh fuck. Like nobody's ever been like, whoa, the president's here. They're just like, what the fuck? Like they're like mad, you know?
Days over. Days over before it started.
So you don't want to be that, you know, as you want to have it be like, and so people, you know, in the neighborhood fucking with it and thinking it's cool, which is a credit to Hassan and Kristen and so many people behind the camera who are born and raised in Brooklyn, Carrie Cotta and so many other people involved in the show who give it that that sort of added knowledge and naturalism, you know?